what code tells the browser to show each of the elements, and that is basically the HTML and then the corresponding CSS that we went through. So
yeah, the HTML, there's a different version with kind of a lighter gray and a darker gray, such that you can still see the shadow. But yeah, the answer, the content displayed by the browser is all being done through HTML. The layout, now when I say content, of course we don't have any content on this site at the moment. Let's do that real quick. On index number 3, just for the moment, I'm going to turn back on this little bit of paragraph, and it's gonna look ugly, and we'll make it pretty in the next session. But if I make this bit of text live now on the page, the only bit of text that we basically have, let's go take a look at it real quick. We see that we have this text now. Of course, it's flowing outside of our container area, etc. And it doesn't need to be styled, because when we finish this, we're actually going to have 2 containers, a left-hand side and then a right-hand sidebar. But I wanted to point out that all the content on the page is being displayed through HTML. So with that, if I go break basically the link to the CSS file, because we're linking to that external CSS file, and it knows to do the whole layout and all the pretty stuff and the positioning of things because of the CSS that works in conjunction with the HTML. But if I decide to say, you know what, I'm just going to put the wrong name. So it's now style-wrong.css. Well, we all know that the real CSS file is named style.css. So now when this page looks for this particular style sheet, it won't be able to find it. As a result of it not being able to find the CSS style sheet, all of the styling of the page is going to go away, and we are left with only this. We're only left with the content. This is the actual content that's just been added to the HTML page. Every single other element that's being controlled on the page is being controlled, both the look and the feel and the alignment, the positioning of things, is happening through CSS and, of course, its conjunction or its connection to the actual HTML. Anything else?
There's a couple related questions. Let me just go through both of them quickly. Where did you get the original image from? Is this a snapshot of an HTML page? And are we doing this to copy elements from somebody else's website? So, why would you?
Okay.
I think they're kind of related. So.
Number 1, we created the PSD. I think the first question you had was, where did we get it from?
Right.
We are the creators of it. So I guess the other question that you're not asking might be, where can you get some yourself if you're not a designer? And there's a lot of places that can happen. But if you go over to ThemeForest, actually, let's go to Graphic River. I think Graphic River is going to be better. GraphicRiver.net. You'll get the ability on GraphicRiver.net. This is not free. You will pay, but you get the ability to look at, see graphics. Let's see. I'm not sure if it's over here at ThemeForest. Print templates, web, elements. These are all elements. Logos. There's a bunch of cool stuff that you can get over here. Graphics and backgrounds. But this is not really what I want. Let's go back to ThemeForest. Owned by the same company, Envato. Over here, you get to PSD templates, and this is where I wanted to be. So ThemeForest.net, and then find the PSD templates tab. You'll see they're categorized. So let's say you wanted to build a corporate type website. You can click on corporate. And then, of course, you can search by a bunch of different ways. Let's just look at prices low to high, look at by price, just to give you an idea. So let's say, for example, you liked this particular layout and you wanted to build a custom website around it, you could buy this PSD for just $6. And the cool thing about it is that you are allowed to code this template and use it in a client's website for that $6 fee. If you decide that you want to code it and then sell the coded template off, you have to buy a special, more expensive license. But just to point out that you can find a variety of different PSD files over here at ThemeForest for very reasonable prices that you can use, either for your own business, or if you just want to start, expanding your knowledge base by saying, okay, let's take what Kevin and Jerry taught us and try to code that. That's another thing that you can use basically in your own education. So that's that. What was the next question?
Okay,
I didn't answer
they're asking if it was just a snapshot of the HTML page, and are we doing this to copy elements from somebody else's website?
No, we're not teaching you to copy anything from someone else's website, other than the fact that you're more than welcome to look at other people's websites for inspiration and even look at their code to kind of figure out what they're doing and how they built something. The source code is typically easily found through just viewing the source. Yeah, Jerry?
Right. So a snapshot is just going to take like a screenshot, which is a flat image file, and we're actually dealing with the different layers of the, turning on and off elements and slicing out the specific things we need. So while you could slice things out, this is designed to be, more specific and higher quality to do it. And you
yeah, if you just had an actual snap of a website, let's go back to 960 grid system. Let's just say I just took a screenshot of this. Of course, the first problem would be the resolution would be relatively low. But when you went to slice stuff out, and right now at the moment I'm not looking at anything that would really worry about it. Maybe this site would actually work. But most sites, if you go to try to slice out, this, like I said, because a screenshot is one flattened image, like Jerry just said, you can't turn on or turn off individual elements or layers. When you try to slice across something, you're basically going to pick up everything that's in that area. The reason why people slice PSDs is because if it's built properly, the PSD image is properly layered, and that gives you the ability to turn on and turn off individual elements such that you can slice things appropriately. And that's one thing to pay attention to when you look at these PSD elements over here on ThemeForest. You'll see a number of things. The minimum Photoshop version, minimum would be CS4, which is what I have. This one, you can use an older version, CS3. This one, even older still, way old for CS. But the other thing to do is when you look at individual things, they should tell you as part of the what it comes with, you should see some type of a description. So what are you going to get? Well, you're going to get one Photoshop document with 2 pages, basically meaning they have 2 different layouts. It says it is 960 grid ready. It's not required, but it is grid ready, so they did use the 960 grid system like I showed you. It says all layers are named well and organized into groups, which is how I showed you. And there's documentation on customizing. So this one sounds like something that's been really well thought out, but just make sure that you see this type of stuff. If you see an image, for some reason, and it's possible that you might find it in here. I don't know that you would, but if you find something in here that says that it's not layered, this, for example, you don't really know. You can tell that it's, minimum version is this, but it just says it's a clean, simplistic design. There's no information at all as to whether this is a layered PSD file. So I would avoid this one and look for something that has got better information. Anything else?
Someone was asking about how does the mid-Y repeat white area know to stop at the bottom rounded edges of the image? When you set the minimum height and it just met up to it, how did it know to stop and not, go over that other one. So CSS, but
yeah. So, okay, well, let's look at the HTML first. So basically what's happening is through the HTML, the first thing we did is through this div class here, we told it to output the top part of that image, and we told it through CSS to not repeat, to be used one time fixed. The next thing we did through CSS is we told this image to repeat continually in the y-axis or vertically. The next thing we did down here is we created the div ID of footer, which we know through CSS we're not telling it to do anything specific. Through footer 1, we told it to create a band of color across the bottom. And then the next thing we did was we told it to output this other image that is again set to not repeat. So this image is basically fixed here. The other top is fixed here. And this is basically told right here to just continue to repeat. It does get somewhat confusing in regards to, let's see, I'm seeing a problem with my call out. That's a class. Sorry about that. This does get confusing as to how this specifically works, and quite honestly, it's hard for me to even explain. It's going to continue to repeat until it runs into this other element, basically, and complete the entire look. I think the best thing to do is just play around with it like I did earlier. Take this bottom area and move it around to different spots and kind of see how it acts. Again, the CSS for the mid area is set to be a minimum height of 500 pixels, which is why it's outputting that height regardless of whether this content is on or off. But I don't know that I can explain it any better. The other thing I guess I should point out is because it repeats, this isn't what you're asking, but in addition to that, if we were to copy and paste now the paragraph, and this is really ugly, but if we copy and paste the paragraph a number of times, and I won't send it to you this way, I'll send you a pretty version. We would see that it just continues, and if I continued to add content to this page would just continue to grow. As far as why it specifically, well, it stops obviously because this image is set to be no repeat. So this tiled image, basically the repeated image or tiled, just continues to run until it runs into that next fixed object is the best way I can explain it. And through CSS, again, if we just look at the CSS callout, we see that the top image was output through here and told to not repeat. That middle image was told to repeat vertically, and that bottom image was told to not repeat. Can you help me out, Jerry?
Yeah, it's basically it lays out the page and it needs to fit the footer information in, which is basically put in, and then the rest of it's flowing either to minimum height, like you said, or however height it needs to be. It's I don't want to use the term auto floating, auto sizing, but because I don't want you to confuse that with a lot of the auto things. But that's really what it does. It just it's filling up the bucket from the bottom up. It hits to the bottom and then it says this is it, and so it stops. If you were to have content outside that range, it might change the layout and stuff like that. But for this purpose, it puts the placeholder for the footer and then just fills up until it gets to it. So the person that asked it, James, says he understands. So,
okay.
So,
well, yeah. Wow, you're a better man than I, James.
So, The other question is, are there products that are open source or less expensive than Photoshop that can do slicing, PSD slicing? Or how much can this be done in Photoshop Elements?
Not that I'm aware of, and from everybody that's in this class that has told me in advance multiple times now, PSD or the Photoshop Elements doesn't do slicing. That's one of the features that it doesn't have. So the answer there is Jerry's going to say something here, and he has knowledge outside of my own. For us, we have been ardent Photoshop users for wow, I don't know, as long as Photoshop's been out. So that's what I know.
Basically, I'm going to say the same thing. I don't know of anything that does offhand, but there is trial editions of Photoshop Elements at Adobe. At least they had them. I'm not sure if they're still there. So you might try that.
Well, there's trial of the full version of Photoshop, not just Elements.
Yeah, I thought it was both, but yeah, it is something that's considered rather advanced, and a lot of the photo programs are designed just for like photo manipulation or basic, red eye touch up, stuff like that.
Right. I know a lot of people will immediately say, well, GIMP. GIMP comes up all the time, but I've only used GIMP just a small amount of time, just to kind of, since everyone was talking about it and everyone was asking me questions about can you do this and can you do that, and wow, did I find out it can do very little as opposed to what Photoshop can do. Is the text doesn't stay, the ability to manipulate it, etc. It's not that it can't do a lot; it does a lot, but it's just not the same. So, as far as any other particular software that does gives you the ability to slice fully from a PSD like I just showed, I don't know of any. The answer to that is, and I think this is what trips up a lot of people, is really this. Everybody thinks that just because we talked about and taught, basic PSD slicing and coding from it, you've now got to go be the PSD slicer. And in my opinion, that's a bad move. Not that you can't, do it and learn it, and I think it's wise for you to learn more about it, because you'll be a better purchaser of services from outsourcers. But here's the reality. Reality is there are way too talented people that have skills so far above our own, and in that I include me. I'm not speaking for Jerry, for myself. Talents are way above my own that will work for way cheaper than I'd be willing to work. So, for example, just real quickly, I'll just show you a couple places. There are many, many, many online. One of the premium ones is called PSD2HTML.com. If you've never been there before, I recommend you just go check it out. Take a second for it to come up, but here we go. We have PSD2HTML.com. What they do is exactly what I just showed you, but they do the whole ball of wax, not just the basics, the full thing. So you can see they take your designs to HTML and beyond. If you want it coded in XHTML or HTML5, or if you want to even have your designs coded to work for CMS like WordPress or Joomla, etc. They'll even add more functionality like JavaScript drop-down menus, etc. You can get them to do that entire process for you. And it says right now that normally their prices are higher, but it looks like they've got a special offer going on. $99 from PSD to HTML conversion for a limited time. So for $100, you send over the PSD and they do all of the work in the background that would take literally probably at least 10 to 12 to 16 plus hours to do from start to finish if you're talking about coding the entire PSD and all of the content and all of the CSS and all of the HTML, etc. A normal person is going to take a couple of days process, and they can do it for $100. So what you can do with a service like this, obviously, is if you get a client, you can show them screenshots of different layouts, maybe like over on ThemeForest. Don't buy them in advance. Just take some screenshots, show your clients, hey, would you like a layout that looks like this or like this or like this? Once they've selected it, you could go spend, you know, $6 to $10 to $20 to get the PSD over at ThemeForest, come over to a service like this, get the whole thing coded, and easily sell a, you know, customized website specifically for getting a graphic designer to maybe change or alter the PSD after you've purchased it from ThemeForest for, you know, on the low end, you know, $1,000 would be, in my opinion, way too low, but $1,000, $2,000 plus, and basically you just facilitate the discussion with the client and facilitate the outsourcing of the actual coding. PSD to HTML is just, like I said, one of many, and if I show you another one, I'll show you one that I really like and that we've used a lot. Oops, I get it right. It's CodeMyConcept.com. CodeMyConcept, we've been very happy with them. Their pricing is a little bit better. You'll notice that their normal pricing, it's $89 for the first page, and if you have sub-pages, basically different layouts of the same website, each additional is $69 per page, and they do the work in 2 to 3 business days, and it's really easy to order. Like PSD to HTML, you can also get it in a content management system like WordPress, etc., and basically works the same way. So I do want you to know about slicing and get an understanding as to, you know, what it is and why it is, etc. But realistically, it would be a whole lot better for you to go get clients and to use a service like this than to try to do the work yourself, because if you think about buying Photoshop and then having to learn it and then having to spend all the time to code it, you know, Photoshop is just by itself is a software package that costs, I forget, I know we just spent like, I know it was in the thousands for the last time we bought the latest version for my wife. It's expensive. It's very expensive, and you could do a whole lot of projects outsourced without having to actually do the work rather than buy Photoshop. Just a thought.
I agree. I don't do Photoshop. I'm horrible with graphics. I find that I have line yourself up with either people or with companies like these that can, you know, outsource that work. And the same works vice versa. If you're really good with graphics, you might, you know, but not into the other side of it. But it's really good to know this stuff because it really helps when you have to tweak a site or work with a site or manipulate a site that you kind of know the whole ball of wax. So you know what you're getting into.
Yeah. Yep.
Somebody asked, do you always do websites by hand? And I actually prefer doing them by hand. So it just depends on what it is. But I don't do the graphic side. I either, you know, use elements that are existing or get somebody to make them for me.
Yeah.
So
cool. I think we're good.
Let's see.
We're good?
We seem to be good.
All right. So in the next session, basically, we're going to move a lot faster. We're not going to really, most of the other stuff, even though there are some images that'll be used, primarily it's really just the layout of images and positioning, etc. So we're pretty much, I don't really expect that we're going to be back in Photoshop. We'll just spend time building the page exactly as we did today, just piece by piece by piece, and showing you what each additional element does and kind of how it styles or positions things until we get it to the point that you see on the full working page. And then of course you're going to get full access to the fully coded page as well, such that you could use it if you wanted to for a real site, and or develop it further, and or simply just use it as an instructional device. So with that, Jerry, unless there's anything else, I think we can say howdy.
Bye for now, and we will see you on the next webinar.